Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 44 of the Comic Book Artist Spotlight. This is Crime Alley Comics, and the artist that we will be focusing on tonight, he's probably, I know I didn't know a whole lot about him, and in fact, I didn't know any of the work that he had done, but one of my subscribers recommended him with some other people, some other artists that he thought would be good to have a spotlight on. So this guy was doing comic book art and cartooning way back in the 40s. Well, he was doing comic books and stuff in the 40s, 50s, 60s, on up till, well, I think mostly maybe in the 90s was probably, well, anyway. And he done cartooning too, so a lot of the cartoons we used to watch back in the 70s, he did a lot of the cartoon art for. But I only have one book that I know of that he did the cover on, and I have looked for like 2 hours. I've been through every single box of DC comics that I have to try to find this book, and for some reason I cannot come across it. And it's not been probably 3 months since I've seen this book, and now I can't find it for nothing. So anyway, the artist that we are going to spotlight tonight is Alex Toth. And Alex Toth, like I said, his art is very interesting, and I would say he's probably one of the artists that have had the least recognition, from what I can see, of the work that he's done. And I don't hear anything about him, and so I thought, well, and after doing some reading and seeing what he's done, I thought he would be a really good choice for tonight's spotlight. So Alex, or Alexander Toth, was born June the 25th of 1928, and he passed away May 27th of 2006. He was an American cartoonist, active from the 1940s through the 1980s. Toth's work began in the American comic book industry, but he is also known for his animation designs for Hanna-Barbera throughout the 1960s and 70s. His work included Super Friends, Fantastic Four, Space Ghost, C-Lab 2020, kind of ironic, huh? And the Herculoids. And also Birdman. Toth's work has been resurrected in the late-night, adult-themed spin-offs on Cartoon Network. Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. I really don't like that show. And C-Lab 2021, and the Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law. Now, I've never seen that one, so I'm not I'm not familiar with that at all. He was inducted into the comic book industry's Jack Kirby Hall of Fame in 1990. So for his early life and career, Alex Toth was born in 1928 to immigrants from Hungary who were partly of Slavic minority in Hungary. His father was Sander Toth, a musician. His mother was Mary Elizabeth Toth. Toth's talents was noticed early, and a teacher from his poster class in junior high school urged him to devote himself to art. Enrolling in the School of Industrial Arts, Toth studied illustration. He began his career when he sold his first freelance art at the age of 15, subsequently illustrating true stories for Heroic magazine through a comic book packager named Steve Douglas. Although he initially aimed to do newspaper strips, it was my dream to do what Caniff, Raymond, and Foster had done. He found the industry dying and instead moved into comic books. After graduating from the School of Industrial Arts in 1947, Toth was hired by Sheldon Mayer at National or DC Comics. Green Lantern number 28, October-November of 1947, was one of the first comics he drew for the company. He drew 4 issues of All-Star Comics, including issues 38 and 41, in which the Black Canary first met the Justice Society of America and then joined the team. A canine sidekick for Green Lantern named Streak was introduced in Green Lantern number 30, February-March of 1948, and the dog proved so popular that he became the featured character on several covers of the series, starting with issue number 34. He worked at DC for 5 years, drawing the Golden Age versions of The Flash, Dr. Midnight, and The Atom. In addition to superheroes, Toth drew Western comics for DC, including All-Star Western, and he was assigned to the Johnny Thunder feature in All-Star Western because editor Julius Schwartz considered him to be my best artist at the time, he said. Toth and writer Robert Canier co-created Rex the Wonder Dog in 1952. For a brief time in 1950, Toth was able to realize his dream of working on newspaper comic strips for Ghost illustrating Cassie Ruggles with Warren Tufts. In 1952, Toth ended his contract with DC Comics and moved to California. It is during that time that he worked on crime, war, and romance comics for Standard Comics. In 1954, Toth was drafted into the U.S. Army and stationed in Tokyo, Japan. While in Japan, he wrote and drew his own weekly adventure strip, John Fury, for the base paper Depot Diary. Okay, moving on to animation and later in his career. Returning to the United States in 1956, Toth settled in the Los Angeles area and worked primarily for Dell Comics until 1960. In that year, Toth became art director for the Space Angel animated science fiction show. This led to his being hired by Hanna-Barbera, where he created the character Space Ghost for the animated series of the same name. And his other creations include the Herculoids, Birdman and the Galaxy Trio, and Dino Boy in the Lost Valley. He worked as a storyboard and design artist until 1968, and then again in 1973, when he was assigned to Australia for 5 months to produce the TV series Super Friends. My favorite. He continued to work in comic books, contributing to Warren Publishing magazine's Eerie, also Creepy, and The Rock. For DC Comics, he drew the first issue of The Witching Hour, February-March of 1969, and introduced the series Three Witches. Toth illustrated the comic book tie-in to the Hot Wheels animated series based on the toy line. His collaboration with writer Bob Haney on the 4-page story Dirt Job in Our Army at War, number 241, February of 1972, has been described as a true masterpiece. Toth worked with writer and editor Archie Goodwin on the story Burma Sky in Our Fighting Forces, number 146, December of 1973 through January of 1974, and Goodwin praised Toth's art in a 1998 interview. To me, having Alex Toth do any kind of airplane story, it's a joy for me. If I see a chance to do something like that, I will. He did a really fabulous job on it. The two men crafted a Batman story for Detective Comics number 442, August-September of 1974 as well. Toth and E. Nelson Bridwell produced a farming sequence for the Super Friends feature in limited collector's edition C41 December 1975, January 1976. Toth's final work for DC was the cover for Batman Black and White, number 4, September 1996, which is the book that I have with the entire set of Batman Black and White books, and I cannot find them anywhere. So that's the one I was going to show you. So at least I'll have a picture of it at the end. Let's see, his death. Toth died at his drawing table on May the 27th, 2006 from a heart attack. His ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean. Alex Toth was the father of 4 sons, Eric and Damon, and daughters Donna and Carrie. His marriage to Christina Sharber Hyde ended in divorce in 1968, and his second wife, Gilla Avery, died in 1985. Toth did much of his comics work outside superhero comics, concentrating instead on such subjects as hot rod racing, romance, horror, and action-adventure. His work on Disney's Zorro had been reprinted in trade paperback form several times. Also, there are 2 volumes of the Alex Toth Reader, published by Pure Imagination, which focuses on his work for Standard Comics and Western Publishing, and Brian Bolin has cited Toth as one of his idols. Journalist Tom Spurgeon wrote that Toth possessed an almost transcendent understanding of the power of art as a virtual story component, and called him one of the handful of people who could seriously enter into greatest comic book artists of all time discussions and a giant 20th century cartoon design. Toth was known for his exhaustive study of other artists and his outspoken analysis of comic art, past and present. For example, in a 2001 interview, he criticized the trend of fully painted comics, saying it could be comics if those who knew what pacing was and didn't just jam a lot of pretty pictures together into a page or pages and call it a story. Continuity, it ain't. Toth lamented what he saw as a lack of awareness on the part of younger artists of their predecessors, as well as feeling that the innocent fun of comics past was being lost in the pursuit of pointless nihilism and mature content. In the 1990s and 2000s, he contributed to the magazine Comic Book Art and Alter Ego, writing the columns Before I Forgot and Who Cares? I Do, respectfully. In 2006, James Counts and Bill Ingram compiled Personal Anecdotes, hundreds of unseen sketches from famous Alex Toth comic and animated work, combined with correspondence with friend and comic dealer John Hitchcock in the book Dear John, the Alex Toth Doodle Book, and that was by Octopus Press. Launched at Comic-Con 2006, the first printing sold out within weeks of first publication. Now, that's all I have on Alex Toth. It sounds like he had a very interesting career. He done some great stuff that I wasn't even aware that he did, but I loved it nevertheless, not even knowing who it was, because the old Herculoids, Super Friends, all those cartoons, and Space Ghost. Space Ghost was another one of my favorite cartoons back in the day. So I love all those characters, and to know now that he created those and done the cartoonist art for those really ties that all together, and that makes me appreciate him that much more, because he was somebody that I virtually didn't know anything about, and really didn't even, I really didn't know anything about him. When I first got the suggestion to do a piece on Alex Toth, I thought to myself, okay, who is this guy? Because I didn't recognize the name. But now that I've dug into this, it's I'm really glad that suggestion was made, because I really appreciate going through and finding out all this information about things that he did that I enjoyed as a child that I didn't even realize. So for awards and recognition, the Inkpot Award from the San Diego Comic-Con in 1981, and he was induced into the comic book industry's Jack Kirby Hall of Fame in 1990, which I think I mentioned that one earlier. That's the only two things they have down as far as awards. Now, as for things that he has done, work that he has done, and now a lot of the things that he's done has been interior work, because I noticed that some of the House of Mystery comic books, a lot of them that Neil Adams done the cover art on, Alex Toth did the interior art. So you know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff happening too. So I did find several pictures of Alex Toth covers, which is what I try to, you know, show you guys mostly as covers. But I did also, well, and by this point you've probably seen most of them. So I did find some art from, you know, Super Friends, Herculoids, and Space Ghost. Okay, so for DC Comics, he did Adventure Comics, number 418, 419, Black Canary appearance, number 425, 431, and 497 or 495 through 497. That was from 1972 to 1983. Adventures of Rex the Wonder Dog, number 1 through 3 in 1952. All American Comics, number 88. Dr. Midnight, number 92 and 96. Also 98 and 99. Green Lantern, number 100 through 102. Johnny Thunder, 1946 to 1948. I'm sorry, 1947 to 1948. And I think all of those that I just read off were part of the All American Comics from the way it looks on here. I'm not sure about that, but All American Western, number 103 through 125. Johnny Thunder is in parentheses, so I'm assuming Johnny Thunder is who the stories was about in All American Westerns. That was from 1948 to 1952. All-Star Comics, number 37, 38, and 40 and 41. Justice Society of America, 1947 through 1948. All-Star Western, number 58 through 61 and 63. 1951 to 1952. Black Hawk, number 260 in 1983. Brave and the Bold, number 53, the Atom and Flash team up, 1964. Comic Cavalcade, number 26 through 28, featuring the Green Lantern, I guess, in 1948. Dale Evans Comics, number 1 through 13, 1948 through 1950. Danger Trail, number 1 through 5, 1950 to 1951. DC Comics Presents, number 84, Superman and the Challengers of the Unknown, 1985. Detective Comics, number 174. I don't have that book, unfortunately. I don't think I have any Detective Comics back that far. But Flash Comics, number 102. Girls Love Stories, number 1, 2, and 4, 1949 to 1950. Girls Romance, number 2, 13, and 120, from 1950 to 1966. Green Lantern, number 28, 30 and 31, and 34 through 38, 1947 to 1949. Green Lantern, Volume 2, number 171, in 1983. Hot Wheels, number 1 through 5, in 1970. House of Mystery, number 109, 120, 149, 182, 184, 187, 190, and 194, from 1961 to 1971. And like I said, a lot of these are not, he didn't do the covers necessarily, but he did artwork on the comic books. Okay, some more for DC. House of Secrets, 48, 63 through 67, 83, 123. And that was from 1961 to 1974. Jimmy Wakely, number 1 through 15, 1949 to 1952. Limited Collector's Edition C41 Super Friends 1975, which is one that I do not have, which I would love to get. Mysteries in Space number 1 and 7, 1951 and 1952. Our Army at War 235, 241, and 254 from 1971 to 1973. Our Fighting Forces number 134, 146, 1971, 1973. And then there was a comic called Plop. He did number 11 in 1975. Rip Hunter, Time Master, number 6 and 7, 1962. Romance Trail, number 1 through 4 and number 6, 1949 to 1950. Secret Hearts, number 114, 141 through 143, and 149 in 1966 through 1971. Sensation Comics, number 91, 92, and 107 in 1949 through 1952. Sensation Mystery, number 114, 1953. Sinister House of Secret Love, number 3, 1972. Star Spangled War Stories, number 164 in 1972 as well. Strange Adventures, number 8, 9, 12, 13, and 17 through 19. That was from 1951, 1952. Superman Annual number 9 in 1983. Weird War Tales number 10, 1973. Weird Western Tales number 14, 1972. The Witching Hour number 1, 3, 8, and 10 through 12, 1969 through 1970. World's Finest Comics number 54 and 66, 1951 through 1953. Young Love number 74, 78, and 79 from 1969 to 1970. Young Romance number 163 through 164. That was in 1969, 1970. And that's all I have on here for DC Comics. Some of those that I read off, like I said, I didn't find that he did the cover art. Well, looking through all my spreadsheets for DC and Marvel and so on, the only one I found that I have actually, put the artist's name in that had his name was that Batman black and white. And I didn't find anything that I have in Marvel Comics that his name was on. But then again, everything I have in the spreadsheets is not complete. So I don't have the cover artists for all of the books on my spreadsheets. So I could have missed them. A couple of these that I read off sound kind of familiar. So now for Dell Comics. He did Colt 45 number 6 in 1960. The Flying A's Range Rider number 17, 1957. Four Collar number 790, 822, 845 through 846, 877, 882, 889, 907, 920, 914, 933, 951, 960, 976, 992, 1003, 1018, 1014, 1024, 1041, 1069, 1066, 1000, they got those two backwards. 1071, 1085, 1105, 1106, 1134, 1159, 1180, and 1264. That was from 1957 to 1962. Wow. The Frogmen number 5, 1963. Hughes O'Brien, Famous Marshal Wyatt Earp, number 10 and 13, 1960 and 1961. Jace Pearson's Tale of Texas Rangers, number 15 and 16 in 1957. Lawman number 4, 1960. Maverick number 10 and 13 in 1960. Rex Allen, number 24, 1957. The Rifleman, number 3 and 6, 1960, 1961. Rin Tin Tin and Rusty, 1934, number 34 and number 36, 1960 and 1961. Roy Rogers and Trigger, number 111, 119 through 124. That was from 1957 to 1958. Voyage to the Deep, number 3, 1963. Wagon Train, number 5, 1960. Western Roundup, number 18, 1957. Zorro, number 9 and number 12, 1960, 1961. For Golden Key comics. Now, I didn't look at my Golden Key comics, because I do have some Golden Keys that look like are showing up here. Boris Karloff Tales of Mystery, number 5. I don't know if I have that one or not, but 1963, I do have some Boris Karloff comics. Darby O'Gill and the Little People, number 1, 1970. Mystery Comics Digest, number 3, 5, 12, and 21, 1972 to 1975. Twilight Zone, number 3 and 4 and 25, 1963 to 1968. Walt Disney Comics Digest, number 9, 35, 39, and 52, from 1969 to 1975. Walt Disney Presents Zorro, number 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7 through 9, 1966 to 1968. And Walt Disney Showcase, number 34, in 1976. For Marvel Comics, he did Justice, number 41, 1953. Love Romances, number 49 and 53, in 1955. Lovers, number 67, 1955. My Love Story, number 7, 1957. My Own Romance, number 55, in 1957. Rawhide Kid, number 46, 1965. TV Stars, number 3, featuring Space Ghost, 1978. Western Gunfighter, number 27 in number 24 in 1957. X-Men, number 12 in 1965. Standard Comics. He did Adventures into Darkness, number 5, 8, and 9, 1952-1953. Battlefront, number 5 in 1952. Best Romance, number 5 in 1952. He had a thing for number 5s, I guess. Crime Files, number 5, 1952. Exciting War, number 8, 1953. Fantastic Worlds, number 5 and 6 in 1952. Intimate Love, number 19, 21, 22, and 26, 1952 to 1954. Jet Fighters, number 5 and 7, 1952 to 1953. Joe Yank, number 5, 6, 8, 10, and 15, 1952 to 1954. Lost Worlds, number 5 and 6, 1952. My Real Love, number 5, 1952. New Romances, number 10, 11, 14, and 16 through 20, 1952 through 1954. Out of the Shadows, number 5, 6, 10, and 10 through 12, 1952 to 1954. Popular Romance, number 22 to 27, 1953 to 1954. This Is War, number 5, 6, and 9, 1952 to 1953. Thrilling Romances, number 19, 22 through 24, and that was in 1952 to 1954. Today's Romance, number 6, 1952. The Unseen, number 5, 6, 12, and 13 in 1952 to 1954. Now for War and Publishing, he did Blazing Combat, number 1 through 4, 1965 to 1966. Creepy, number 5, 7, 23, 75 through 80, 91, 114, 122 through 125, and 139, and annual number 1. And that was from 1965 through 1982. Erie, number 2, 3, 14, 16, 51, 64, 65, 67, and annual number 1. That was from 1966 through 1975. The Rock Magazine, number 3 and 4, 1980. UFO and Alien Comics, number 1, 1977. Oh, he did Vampirella, number 90, 108, and 110, 1980 to 1982. And Warren Presents, number 3, in 1979. That is all I have on Alex Toth. I was very happy that someone suggested him, because after going through this little exercise of trying to find pictures of covers and looking at his artwork and seeing the work that he did that I enjoyed as a child, it was really nice to be able to put that all together, because it's like, I never really paid any attention to who the artist was for Super Friends and all those cartoons. I just liked the cartoons, So to find out the person behind Space Ghost, Super Friends, the Herculoids, and then to find that they also did comic book art as well, really ties that together for me from my childhood. So that is something I really enjoyed. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, if you look on the left of the, well, whatever I happen to have up there at the moment, which is probably my Batman Black and White picture now. And there's an A10 flying over. That's interesting. Cool. Anyway, forgive me. Got kind of off track there for a minute. On the left is a DC Multiverse Batgirl figure that I just got in the mail yesterday, that came from my oldest son, Anthony, for Father's Day. And then on the right hand side of your screen, there is the Alfred Pennyworth and Wayne Manor Funko Pop that I got from my oldest daughter, Megan, who lives in Florida at the moment, but they're getting ready to move to Louisiana. And so since they couldn't be here for Father's Day and so on, they sent these things to me. So I would just like to shout out those two children, because this is what I have so far. And anything else I get, I'll show you as I get them. All right. So I wanted to say thank you to them. And that is all I have. Please leave comments. This guy has a long history, way beyond my years, because I wasn't even around when he started doing comic books back in the 40s. Well, I wasn't around in the 50s either, and barely into the 60s. So anyway, I do have a real appreciation, not just for like the Batman comics and Superman comics and stuff like that from the 40s. I like, the old Green Lantern comics from the 40s and so on, that he actually did some work on. And I've never been really into the Western comics that much. There are a few that I would like to get. I would like to get some of the Lone Ranger comics, maybe some Dale Evans and Roy Rogers, and some other things like that, just simply because those are things that I watched when I was a child. I did watch the Lone Ranger, and Roy Rogers. I did watch Roy Rogers some, but I watched mostly science fiction. I was more interested in Batman and Star Trek and Twilight Zone and all those type of things. And then, of course, the cartoons. So So yeah, but I would like to collect some of that stuff. And you know, at least if I had some of that stuff, I could have shown you something. Or if I could have found the book that I actually have. You know, I just want to rant for just a few seconds here, if you guys don't mind. I have all these boxes of comics. I have all my Batman comics in specific boxes. And I know where all of them are at. Yet when I go through them, you know, like I said, I've seen this Batman black and white book, because there's like 10 of them and they're all together. Now a couple of them are duplicates, I think, but I got like 10 of them all together. So it shouldn't be any problem to find those. Well, I've looked through every single DC comic book box that I have, along with the not, I have separated for Batman, but then I have other DC boxes. I went through every one of them, and some of them 2 and 3 times, and cannot find that book. And it has to be in one of those boxes. All 10 of those have to be. But anyway, so that really irritates me when I can't find something. So what I ended up having to do, because I was looking for it yesterday, and then I've been looking for it tonight, and it's like, I've got to get this video done so I can put it up Wednesday. So it's Tuesday night. It's like 8 o'clock right now. So, and I've got to edit this and everything. So, so it's like, I've got to get the video done. So I've got to just quit looking for the book, and I'll put a picture up. I don't like that, but you know, it is what it is, because I don't want to miss getting this up on Wednesday night. Anyway, now that I'm done ranting, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all my subscribers. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. And also hit the bell if you want to be notified of future videos. And there will be future videos. I have a haul video that I'm going to have to try to put together before the weekend, because I want to get that up by this weekend, because I got, well, I done a flea market and antique mall haul over the weekend, and Frankie D's Flea Market in Muncie, Indiana, 50% off sale through the end of June. And in this in particular Frankie D's, because there's 3 of them in Muncie, but this is the one on Broadway, and the booth that had the 50% off sale are all dollar comics. So I bought like 47 books just from that booth, you know, and bought them all for 50 cents. So I ended up getting you know, some art germ covers and you know, 50 cents a piece, and I was just tickled to death. And then I went to Jake's Antiques over in Marion, and I only picked up about 5 or 6 books there, I think. But and a couple of those I think were for my wife. No, those were the ones I got from Frankie D's. The ones I got from my wife came from Frankie D's. All the ones I got at Jake's were for me. And actually for a friend, because I picked one up that I knew somebody was wanting. So anyway, I will cut this off at this point. Again, thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this information about Alex Toth. If you have ever met him or have any further information on Alex Toth that I didn't cover, please feel free to leave comments, because I always like to find out, you know, I never met the man. In fact, I never even knew who he was until I did this. So, and I'm really glad that I've done this now, but I'd like to know more. If you've ever met him at a convention or anything like that. Of course, he died in 2006, so he hasn't done any conventions for 14 years, but I know there have been people leave comments before that they met, you know, comic book artists and so on that I talked about in those videos, like maybe back in the 80s and 90s. So if you ever met him, I would appreciate knowing, you know, what he was like. what kind of experience you had with him at a con, if you got, signatures, whatever. So if you guys have any information you would like to share, please leave the comments down below. With that, I'm going to let you all go. Have a fantastic week. God bless, and we will see you all next video.